Yes.
All right, so call this budget review committee meeting to order Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, and it is 5:34. We'll begin with a roll call.
Present. Diane Crocker.
Here.
Kyle Cup.
Here.
Nicole Hasley. Nicole, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, took me a second.
And Hunter.
Here.
Spencer Irwin.
Here.
Brent Caseman.
Here.
David Lowe.
Here.
Kristen McMorrin.
Here.
Amanda Montiel.
Here.
Teresa Nielsen.
Here.
Amanda Polly.
Here.
Richard Salsa.
Present.
John Simonson.
Here.
All here.
All right. Great, thank you. All right, I'll move to approval of minutes, starting with the minutes from May 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Brent, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That's, those minutes are approved. And next we'll do the April 30th, 2025 meeting minutes. Go ahead.
Sorry, Kyle, can we just clarify that I was a delayed aye?
Oh, there.
As opposed
Okay.
to an opposed?
Absolutely. So that aye was a delayed aye. Delayed aye.
Question.
I asked Nicole just to double check. I'm assuming it is, but let's just ask. Nicole, was that an aye in favor of the minutes being approved?
It is. I apologize. I'm so sorry. If I'm not supposed to do that, I won't.
No, it's fine that you did.
Fine, okay,
It just
okay.
came in just delayed enough to where I was like, eh, maybe we'll find out.
Okay. I don't have the most stable internet, but we're doing my best.
We're doing great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And moving on to the minutes of April 30th, 2025 budget review committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve as presented.
Mayor Christopher Moore, move to approve. Do I have a second? Diane Crocker, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Minutes are approved. Do we have minutes from the last meeting? Or are we waiting for those? That'll be next time. Excellent. So we'll move to review and address questions from the first meeting. I believe I'm turning that over to Mike. Awesome.
As you know, we met last on May 7th, and we went away with 23 questions. One of them was basically the minutes we forgot to recount, but we still added as part of one of the 23, so we've taken care of that one. So what we'd like to do is, if you know, go through each question, just look at them, and currently I don't see that there's possibly one that has a motion, but the rest are open for deliberation. So we'll go through each one of them. And ask if there's any further questions to the answer them. And so we'll call the question number 2. That was something from Chris, the administrative budget for the dues.
Hey, Chris, can I start really quick?
Okay.
Because I think it's important to some of the questions. I included a memorandum I did today after we were talking as a team. Because I was asked this sort of at the end of the meeting, and Mike didn't know that he didn't have it on his list. So I did want to just point out, because there were a lot of questions from network consultants, computer support, and what those are, and why some of the amounts have gone up. And you'll see specific answers in the questions and answers side. But I just wanted to kind of spell out for everyone and for future as we go into further budget years. We have been moving some of those things around, trying to better put like with like over, just like this is our second year trying to do that. So you may see some things that we're still trying to adjust to and determine what goes where, but this is a list of kind of computer support is very IT support that's in addition to our monthly services that we do. They're under the bottom, network consultants, and then subscriptions. That came up a lot. We're trying to move things that are very subscription based into that. So like I put examples of Adobe, our social media archiving, and like our job applicant service. So hopefully that helps a little bit as we go through the questions. Yes.
Thanks, Chelsea. So number two, I'll just rather just recap everything that's there. We're just trying to be a little conservative, I guess. A lot of these dues we don't even know about until we get to like November, December, what the new dues will be. So we make sure we've got enough of the budget for new increases. Admin staff.
You go ahead and take, 150 and pull it there.
Our subscription for 3 went up quite a bit. As noted in there, some of this is trying to capture those subscriptions. A lot of things are going away from like buying software to buying monthly subscriptions for software. A lot of that software got built into office supplies or someplace else before. So it's a newer line item for us. We're trying to get things in there. I think the other big increase here is we were looking at replacing our reader board, and the reader board does a subscription-based option as well. If we go that option, we'll need that money. There's about $450 a month for that subscription to have the reader board and IT support, everything with it. That's no upfront cost. That just kind of gets built into a monthly service fee. We may or may not go that route. We may end up just purchasing it outright up front and not having that monthly fee. But we want to give ourselves the option there if we went either way, depending which way it goes. So that was the reason for the increase there. If we don't go with the subscription base, it's $450 a month we won't be spending. So give ourselves a little bit of buffer there. Travel and meals is just travel and meals costs are going up. We've got newer staff that are going to be going to a little bit more trainings. Our previous city recorder had about 2 or 3 years that she was the director, and so a lot of her expenses were paid for her travel and things. So we can be conservative and give ourselves enough space there. And just big 5.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So subscription for the police side, that deal was added to capture and track annual subscriptions costs for tasers prior to this. It was in the land building and equipment fund. We also have scheduling software and then new evidence software that we're looking to purchase this year. Have any questions on the subscriptions? Then with prisoner care, the question was, why did it go from $1,051 to $3,500? Went back and looked into that a little bit and found that there was an invoice for $2,880 that was accidentally billed to the police department for prisoner care instead of the municipal court. That was for a 36-day sentence that should have been captured in the municipal court's budget. Any questions on that one?
I'll be moving that one by a journal entry, so it'll be in the proper place by year end.
So just to clarify, there wasn't necessarily an increase in like booking people, correct? It was
No.
just that.
No. Yeah, the bulk of that looked like we went from budgeting $1,051 to $3,500, and I think that was a result of this $2,880 invoice being in there and being under the wrong GL code. It went to the police department instead of the municipal court. Yeah. And what was the difference?
Do we need to reduce that 3,500 down to be to what's anticipated there, or do you want to just leave it, or?
Yeah, we could definitely reduce it down.
If you want, leave it. If we don't use it, it just goes into the ending fund balance. So, we've got a $10,000 budget. We're probably going to use up by the end of the year. I was talking to Brianna, so you might run into that next year. And if we can afford it, let's just leave it alone. I mean, unless the budget committee wants to make a change, that's what y'all are here for. So you can change that if you like. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we reduce the prisoner care for the police to $1,500. There's more things to talk about later, which we'll need to have money for. So if this isn't needed, I would suggest we reduce it by $1,000.
Would that go just to?
That'll go to the ending fund balance, or contingency. That's your motion. You can put it in contingency. Fund balance. It's whatever the motion is. You gotta tell me you're gonna reduce it and where you're gonna put it.
Then,
Well, okay, we put it in the ending fund balance for the time being.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Confused. 3,500 was, and you said reduce it by 1,000 down to 1,500. I'm not
Oh,
sure
that's 2,000.
what the math is.
I'm sorry. That would be 2,000.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So if it's going to go into the ending fund balance anyway at the end of the year, why reduce it now when we might have more prisoners?
Well, I don't understand the question. I can't quite hear you. What?
It would be utilized by the police if they end up having more prisoner costs this year, right?
Well, this will be for next year, for next year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's there, then if we have more prison care, then we've got the line item there that we can put it to. If we, the 1,500 would be more in line with what we've seen in previous years. And so that $2,000 essentially doesn't get assigned to the police department. It's gonna go- And so, more money that's there carried over from one year to the next. If the money doesn't get used, it's the same thing, right? It's still going to carry over one year to the next. It's just whether the police department has access to use that funding if they need it or not, whether it's built into the budget or not. So the 1,500, I mean, the $1,000 there from last year, and that was based on a trajectory, what we've been using, which is why I asked the question, if we don't need the full 3,500, then it's going to hurt us to pull it out. If we don't need more than the 1,500 that's been proposed by Mr. Hunsaker, then again, the police department's got contingency or they've got other things they can do if we had to do that after the fact as well. So it's not going to make a big difference. It's $2,000 in a pretty large budget. So either way, it's not going to.
2,000 reduced or from 3,500 to 2,000?
Reduced from 3,500 to 1,500. We're rounding.
That was the motion.
Yeah.
Could withdraw that motion and then make a new one to reduce it to 2,500.
Well, the intent was to make it 1,500 by my motion.
The intent was 15.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he would, yeah.
Okay,
He
thank
called the
you.
difference wrong.
Okay, I didn't catch if the mistake was the difference or the, thank you.
Any further discussion?
A question.
Yes.
So the actuals on those, are these numbers correct on the actuals listed? So I'm reading this right, 23, 24 shows like 24, 15. 26, page 26. So I'm reading it wrong. I could be reading it.
Okay, yeah.
And then
Right, yeah,
the 7-month actuals are already at 29.93.
right. We think of the 20 years ago, so,
So yeah, I mean, we were at, just to read it out, right? In 2022, 23, they spent $510. The following year, 23, 24, they spent $2,450. And then the 24, 25 budget was 1,000. And we've spent the 29.93 minus the 28, so we've spent $100 or so this
yeah,
year, right?
almost two, yeah.
So it varies, right, depending on how many prisoners are going, but just 2 years ago, we did go up to 24.50.
Yeah.
Right.
And you said at the end of the year it would still go in, sorry. You did say at the end of the year it would still go, if it's not utilized, that still goes into the ending fund.
No matter what, yes.
And to refresh my memory, if it goes in the ending fund balance, it's available still for use by the police department the following fiscal year, or does it go, it's
Yeah.
general?
Then fund balance just goes into the bucket.
Okay, so then anyone can access it.
Correct.
Thank you.
The ending fund balance shows up as essentially, for government county, it shows up as like revenue for the start of the next year.
Right.
So anything that we don't spend this year shows up as the top line item as like due revenue or ending fund balance carrying over into the next year, and it gets divvied up all over again. It's like reshuffling the cards. Here's all the cards that we didn't use, reshuffle those, and we'll divvy it out for next year's budget. So it doesn't like carry over and stay within the department or anything. The other place that you see carryover like that is within our landfill equipment fund, where we're putting them aside. Those will build up over time, but anything in here, you spend it, and if you don't spend it, it just all goes back into the pot for next year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shall we vote on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to reduce that budget item to 1,500?
Can we say the name?
Raise your hands.
I'm gonna just count who loses it.
Would it be helpful to do like a roll call?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
Let's just do raise of hands again and start calling out. So Deanna, Rich, Ann, Spencer, Jessica, Amanda, Christopher.
And David.
Nicole.
Nicole's hand is opposed.
What about the rest of you? No, I'm kidding.
Can't abstain.
And opposed?
Opposed is Teresa, Diane, Brent, Kyle, John, and Nicole.
United.
Yeah.
You're
Okay,
checking.
so 8 to 6.
Wow, look at that.
It's a move.
8-6 in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
That was the hardest one. The first one's on the hardest. So we got that out of the way. And some of this is procedural, so we're doing fine.
Maybe more.
All right.
Dave, yeah, you get settled.
On the number 7, what's the difference between this account and the one in the municipal court? Or the question was about the prisoner care. So prisoner care for the police department tracks the cost of booking and pretrial incarceration days, whereas for the muni court, it is for court-ordered sentences by the judge or the court. What questions on that one?
Where are they when that's happened? I know it's probably, I'm wasting time and I'm sorry, but I'm totally curious, like,
Where are the adults in custody when it happens?
yeah, like what are we giving that money to Benton County or something?
Benton County, they have rental beds as well, like up in Northport. Most of those are for sentences. Pretrial stuff is more local.
So we just pay whoever ended up with them.
Yeah, we put
Okay.
Benton County Jail. They have beds they bill us for.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious because we don't have any.
Over there in the bus.
Yeah, there's no how in the bad guys back there like, oh, God.
Still got Percy's fence up.
Yeah, we do. Yep, got the kennel. All right, next one is radar signs, what and why. This is part of the strategic plan, and it would be funded. The goal is to seek for grant funding for 2 permanently mounted radar signs that be located at the west end of town, and then also at the east end of town. The hope is to give instant feedback and then increase traffic safety with those.
I don't know who's taking counsel, Christopher or Chris. I mean,
They are.
okay.
Number 9 is, what is this public art line about? So again, the strategic plan, the council identified a goal to refocus the downtown streetscape art committee into a city-wide art committee because we're done with that mostly. And then develop a plan for funding and maintaining public art, primarily at this time on the plinths that you see downtown, the concrete things that everyone says, what are those? For art. So that's what that's for.
And do you see that as 20,000 a year on? Is that what you're proposing?
I think there will be costs. We'll have to figure out a plan because there are a lot of different types of plans. Some of them are artists will donate, artists will put it there for free, but there are maintenance costs, insurance costs. So we don't know it this time. We're just putting it there so that we can look at making a plan, which will include looking at costs, right? We don't want to put, let's fill everything up with super high value art and then realize it will take $100,000 a year to maintain it. So that is part of the art committee's charge will be to look at those things and try to figure out something that works for the community.
Thank you.
And slowly, not just all at once.
Thank you. I think for some context too, from the council meeting where we talked about that, the hope for this year with that money was to just sort of like kickstart it and have something to show the community about like, here's what public art can be. And, you know, we're not just leaving these empty plinths downtown, but it's not supposed to do everything. And then the committee is supposed to come back with some recommendations for how to kind of have a more long-term sustainable picture of that, if that's using TLT funds, if it's doing some kind of sale or consignment, that's what we'll figure out. But the hope was to at least just have something to show the community by the end of this year with that kind of kickstarting funds, and then we'll figure out the sort of recurring funding for it. But, yeah.
So I guess a couple of questions. How did you land on the 20,000 as opposed to 10 or 30? And it seems a little vague in terms of what that money will be spent on. I mean, I get what it says here that we're looking in, but how do you actually decide how much to spend on a particular piece of art?
We generally know some costs for the type of art that you would put there, which does range. I mean, if we're lucky, we may get something that's under 10,000, but to put a piece of art that would be a scale to put on one of those is probably, you know, maybe we could get 2 pieces. That's our hope. 3 would be great. So we do generally have an idea of just how much those art pieces would cost if we're purchasing them outright. But again, we're going to try to look at other options if we can find some that would bring more art pieces.
And ask as a follow-up.
And the funds you asked are these funds that we've allocated this year are primarily just to get art downtown.
And just to follow up, so when you talk about, are we talking about one piece of art for each of the plinths, whatever they're called? Plinths. And then how many of those are there, plinths?
I think there's 12. I think there are 12. So eventually, yes, but we know that will take time.
I'd like to have a word with whoever decided there needed to be 12, but they're in there, so.
I wasn't here.
We can talk after.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Places to sit.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were.
We are right now being difficulty.
I just am curious, is the art going to be there permanently once we purchase it, or is it a rotating yearly thing? Know that yet?
Well, that's kind of what the art committee will look at. Some of them may be permanent, so we may purchase this money may be, let's purchase 3 pieces that are going to be permanent. And then the art committee may say, you know, we found an option that might work for our community that's going to rotate art at a lower cost, or I think there'll be a mix. I think some things will be permanent and some things will probably rotate.
And I guess one other thing that I don't want to get ahead of the committee, but I think part of what I like about this idea too is having some art, then we can point to that to help fundraise, but it's hard to kind of fundraise off of like a hypothetical, like, wouldn't it be cool to have some art? And everyone's like, what do you mean? So if we can have a few things we can point to the community about like, you like this, you want more of it? Help us make that happen. So I think, again, we just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling. But, yeah.
Going to 10. Chris, you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, bus operations is Honestly, I think we're still reacting a little bit to what that bus budget's going to be. And I don't have a clear picture going forward. A lot of this is federally funded dollars that come through the Rails Trans system. That without the Rails Trans system, we wouldn't be providing bus service at all. And the reason we afford it at all is because they do all the heavy lifting, all the grant writing, et cetera, et cetera. They get some benefit because some of those grants are stronger because they say, hey, we're not just one city, but we're a regional bus system. So, you know, we get it. I like to tell myself we help them get some of those grants that we are recipients of as well. But a lot of that funding a lot of that money was COVID money that was kind of one-time money. And a lot of those federal funds right now are on the chopping block, but then there's some big transportation bills that include multimodal stuff all of the time as well. So not that we're stabbing in the dark there. I mean, we're looking at last year, we're looking at previous years. I think this is a cost that's going to continue to go up. And it'll be something that the city council is just gonna need to keep an eye on and look at. Staff is keeping an eye on and looking at it. But I do think this is something where we're gonna see fewer federal dollars, probably even fewer state dollars, and it's gonna have to come more from Philomath to be supporting that bus service. We don't charge a fare. That was something we started several years ago. We increased our grant amount to cover the amount we were receiving from fares in order to be fare free, and similar to Corvallis. But that money got kind of locked in, and prices go up, and the fare is still locked, and we're kind of there. So I think it's a good number for this year. I think in next year, I would be surprised to see that number increasing, unfortunately. But it's also an essential service for a lot of our residents. And, you know, the temptation is that when the budget gets tight, that you start to, you know, cut those easy things to cut, but you're really hurting your residents that need that service the most often. I know some residents choose to take the bus, but I know a lot more that have to take the bus because that is their mode of transportation. So it's definitely a service we want to continue to support. We're just looking for best ways to do it. Any questions?
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned that they don't charge a fee. I thought there was somewhere in our income in the front of the book that it was around $34,000. So that's
the grant money that we get in lieu of there. Right? But we used to charge the university and we charged Samaritan. We had a set dollar amount from them, and then we had our actual daily fares. And all that got wrapped into this grant, and we've been using this as one-time grant instead to cover that and make it so we don't have to charge fares.
Maybe if that's on page 13, if it mentioned that that was a grant for information. If it says user. Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Moving? I think we're moving. Okay, we're moving on to Public Works. Kevin, you wanna take the next couple?
Yep. Computer support is our budget. Currently shows $9 in proposed budget. I'm just buying one USB thumb drive this year.
Whoa, big spender.
No, that will. Maybe I'll get an attention for. That's why they're like $6.99, and so I got a little left. No, that's for IT services. When we get a new computer or any new hardware to have them hook up and get it running for us and everything. We're all good right now with all that. So not anticipating anything.
Well, you're anticipating $9 worth.
So we're running there for the USB.
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
So you don't want any more money than that?
Loaded question.
I get.
Yes.
Is it worth like having anything in there?
Yes.
Okay.
So it goes back to this, so
Okay.
like if they did have computers budgeted, say like they just had some computers replaced, but if they had to have computer equipment replaced, the portion that we pay River Strong to bring those up to speed, get them installed, that part goes into this fund. So if they had units that were being replaced this year, they'd have money budgeted in there. This is one of those that we're trying to figure out what is going to go in there. We don't know everything that we're gonna end up trying to move into there, but that's what it's there for. So I don't know why the $9 is there. I think the spreadsheet would put $9 in there. But the reason why there's not more for him is that they don't have any equipment replacements this year that would come out of that street fund.
I guess, but like, is it helpful to have $9 in there as opposed to $0 or $10 or like, I guess. Like just,
I think part of it is just keep it active.
I was thinking just keeping it active.
I don't know.
and if we put $0 in there, does that make it inactive?
It disappears off of this report.
Okay. We can't like allocate $0.
Feel better about 10. Like,
It might.
I'll take a couple of there. Makes life easier for me.
All right.
20, 30.
Show your friends.
Any other discussion on that? All right, move on.
Street signs increased from 5150 to 15,000. A lot of that was carryover from last year. I think the computer program, because we had Benton County do some street striping for us, that took that budget down. I think the computer kind of predicted that we were going to spend more, which, talking to Gary, we do need to buy some more heat tape and redo some stop bars and sidewalks, or crosswalks, excuse me, and some of the other street signs that are out there. So that was the purpose behind that increase.
Moving on.
Utilities up from 77 to 11,000. It's just the cost of electricity going up. We've got more street lights. We've got more electrical. Right now we have 2 months to go and we're already at 8,500. So I think the power companies, and I had read and planning on more increases. So just in anticipation that it's going to be higher. We have went with LED lights in a lot of the buildings and have been switching that stuff over, which has helped. But if we wouldn't have, we'd have been 15,000 probably by now.
So it's sort of an in the weeds question, but do you know, like, 'cause I know there's a lot more streetlights now after streetscapes, but they're all LED, whereas the old ones weren't. Do you know, like, how that has changed our energy? Like, if it's been a net positive still, or a net increase, or a net decrease, or this might be a question for a different time. It's more just curiosity.
I do not know.
Okay.
I know we've added a lot, but the ones we add are LED.
Right.
But we also
ones
run
weren't.
the flashing beacons.
Right, sure.
Do more holiday decorations on the light.
Holiday decorations, yes. We have a lot more power consuming items.
Sure.
So.
Okay.
That's.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Contracted services. We use contracted services actually in all the different departments. One specifically that stands out is we'll be doing our required full city leak detection after the 1st of July. So we'll be contracting that. We don't have the equipment to do that. We don't have the expertise or the skills to do it anyway. So it's kind of a specialty thing. So it would be a contracted service. It also covers, other items like, we used it, we had a exceptionally deep fire hydrant, that needed to be replaced, or anything our shoring will reach, so there's another one we had to contract with a contractor to change it out. Equipment repair and maintenance up from 26,000 to 40,000. The vac truck has been like anything else, all electronic. Two different companies that try to put the unit together, and sometimes it doesn't always work, gets out of warranty, and then we're dealing with those issues. Electronics just burn out. And then also it covers stuff still, at the water plant, the pumps, the raw water pumps need to be rebuilt every few years just because of the turbidity in the water. It chews them up. You pull one, send it in. The finished water, not too bad, but we do have chemical feed pumps. Chemicals are harsh on pumps. They're made for it, but they do wear out and thing, and then they upgrade them so often that getting them repaired is, in the last couple of years, we knew our chemical feed pumps were going out of style, so the guys got on the internet and eBay and bought up all the repair rebuild kits that they could. We ran out of those, so when we can get something that will work in the new plant, we go that way. And some stuff is just specialized for this.
Let's move 16 and 17 to the end. Those are kind of involved. Let's take care of the ones that kind of low hanging fruit. So we'll move to 18. Chris, you want to, Kevin, you are the development review experts. We would like to take that one.
Kevin's doing great. This is kind of more his.
Yeah.
The plant or development review, anytime we have a new subdivision coming in, the developer pays a pre-design fee. You have a meeting with everybody, your department, their contractor, city engineer, planner, everybody that has a hand in on that. And then when the plans are completed, they pay 4% of what the total amount would be as a deposit for a plan review, which is our engineer looking through all the plans, making sure everything's where it's supposed to be and is gonna work like it's supposed to be. Water's gonna drain downhill and they're not trying to drain it uphill. And that happens. So that covers the fee. It's a straight through fee. We don't mark anything up. We get a bill from our city engineer paid out of this fund. If anything left over at the end of it, the developer gets that money back. So we really only take that in to cover our costs.
Okay. All right, I'm taking the next one. On line item 41-06434, that was money for the parks and land. We're transferring 53,000, which consists of three numbers. We're transferring 30,000 from the general fund to replace the Flossie open playground equipment, the log. And then we're gonna have a $10,000 carry forward for next year for another project. Then there's 22,000 that are transferring from the general fund also for the replacement of a John Deere tractor on the replacement schedule. That's what the 52,000 is for. Left is there.
Did you say 30,000 for a log?
20,000 for a log. I mean,
A piece of a tree log?
Kevin, can you explain that one?
It's a piece of playground equipment.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not really a log.
What was there before was a
It
log.
may have been, that's, I'm just seeing
That
it.
we didn't pay 20,000 for. I was on
The original log, what used to be up on Pioneer, and it fell in a storm. And we had them cut the trunk of it, and we saved it for a couple of years until the park was ready. And when the park was ready, we put this log in there for the kids to climb up all over. So that one didn't cost us anything other than for some footings and some engineering, if you believe it. But the log's deteriorated. It's getting to the point where it's not safe. It's been pulled out. So we want to put something in the replacement, need some play equipment that the kids can climb. And we're trying to fit out the natural playscapes theme of that park. But yeah, that equipment, I mean, $20,000 goes really, really quick when you're looking at playground equipment. Oh, it's more than a log. It's
Yeah.
a fake log.
This is certified.
Okay, and moving on to the next one, police citation assessment. The question was, what was this used for? It's money, we receive a small portion of each ticket. It's moved over to the land building and equipment fund, the LBE fund. It's put into the police department's equipment budget. It's not much. It's $40 maybe a month. So it just sits there and grows and grows. And we put a little bit in, so Dave has about 20,000 by the end of the year, but part of that came from the general fund. The rest of it is tickets, not a whole bunch. So that's how it's used.
To clarify, is that like the only place, or I guess, so we get a portion of that money from the tickets, is that the only place that it goes, or is there another?
No, that's pretty much it for that particular midget. We don't get a whole bunch from the ticket.
Just curious.
But does the rest of the ticket just goes into general fund?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it does? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it doesn't go to like the county?
No.
The city does get that?
Now, you're asking a lot more questions. I mean, it's like, yeah, it goes to the county, it goes to the state.
Okay, yeah.
But we get this little bitty slice for Dave's equipment. So that's where we put it, in that reserve. But we do have state, we got county, we got feds. I don't know if we have feds. I don't think so unless somebody else does that. I know I only pay the state and the county.
I think the next one down, the 4106-405 for bus services. I think we mentioned this last meeting, but we've been doing some improvements to our bus stops. We've added bus shelters, benches in those shelters. We want to continue that. This is going to be, some of this will be grant-based. Again, a lot of this is money we've been getting through Corvallis, through either state or federal funds to help us pay for these improvements. So if we can get that funding to flow through, then we'll want to spend some more money to add more covered bus shelters, more benches. Ideally, I think even right now, we probably have a better ratio of covered to uncovered bus shelters than Corvallis does, which I love. I'd like to hit 100% if we could, where it's appropriate to be able to have a covered bus shelter everywhere we can. We've got a few more to go. So that's what this is for. It's infrastructure, mostly at the bus stops that we've been investing in. And bus user fees, I think we're maybe end up.
Maintaining those, who's in charge of maintaining the shelters?
We maintain, our public works crew does.
Budget for the maintenance of those?
Streets, I'm not sure where you're pulling it out of, but I mean, they get pressure washed. And there's not a lot of maintenance.
Our building maintenance guy, he has some of his hours out of streets. Thank you.
Basically, that's the one that Van spoke to earlier, page 13, the 10-03605, the bus user fees. That's money that comes from Corvallis Transit System to offset what we used to collect in user and ridership fees. And I think 23 is the same question.
I would move back to 16 and 17. Kevin was asking the prepare a report to, talk about the operations of the storm drain fund. And so he reported that, and put that on your attachment. I'm gonna let Kevin run through his overview and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, at the request, I went through and me and Gary and I stuck me between two. Yeah. I got. Yes. Gary and I had differences of opinion on actually storm and streets. And I didn't have a lot of time. I know one of the questions was a lot of it's funded from streets. He is of the opinion that catch basins in the street should be street department, or would be considered street department, the detention basins and some of those things would be storm. I, on the other hand, am everything that collects storm is storm. So you can look at it different ways in other cities. From what I was looking at this morning, I think it was this morning, some cities are still street department with no storm department that they fund and take care of stormwater out of the street fund completely. Other ones like us, we've split out. I know I pay 2 fees in Salem on my water bill every month. $14, I think, for a storm base fee and $7 for impervious surface. So that's the way they have their setup. Several other cities are that way. Gary and I sat down and went through, figured out what we would need labor wise, did the best we could to estimate what we would need and what that would look like. So we plugged in some of the numbers and what you see before you. And then on top of that, with the recommendation from several places is with the bioswales that need to be rebuilt about roughly every 10 years. They're talking about the expectation would be about $2 per square foot. And we have 52,300 square feet right now, and there are more coming in. We built today, actually. So looking at putting away roughly $105,000 a year storm-wise just to pay for maintenance on those down the line.
Why do they need to be replaced every 10 years?
They've got pipes underneath and the media that sits on top that filters the wastewater or stormwater out. They get clogged up and plugged and stop working. Plants die off, get overgrown, choke out the perforated pipe that's underneath. So,
And that is, if I understand correctly, with developments, new developments, pretty much all of them are required to have these, right?
they are.
So those will grow in numbers as you go.
Yes. And of course, the larger the complex, you take Boulevard Apartments, they've got one huge one, another one that's pretty good sized, and another one that's a little bit smaller. Same with the pharmacy that's going in, they'll have a smaller one that is designed to take care of the flows that'll now come with pavement.
Okay, do we want to talk about funding?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, so now.
Now what? Well, right now, as y'all know, we have a utility rate study going on, and they have all this information. Kevin and I have been kicking around what we're going to do. Do a rate increase. At the present time, Chris doesn't want us to go down that road because council's already approved the rates for next year. That's stuff that Kevin and I are kicking around. We're also talking about redoing the SDC, or not the SDC, the impervious surface methodology. We did that in Newport, and a little time consuming up front, but once you get it done, everybody has impervious surface. So, right now, we've got a budget we're going forward with. But, for next year, maybe, the utility rate study will have that information for us that we can, council, we'll take it to council probably in the next 2 months. We're that close to being done. So we'll at least have an idea of what we're going to be doing. So, that's the things that Kevin and I and Chris have been picking around, those items. The catch basins, that's also something that we need to probably put into the reserve, the land building and equipment. We also have, we're going to have, once the water treatment plant comes online, we're going to have the filters to worry about. So we got a couple things coming up on us. But the biggest thing right now is storm drain. We're doing okay right now at the moment. But we've thrown, this is what we're throwing out. This is where we are. Is there questions from the committee?
Councilor Gotti?
To clarify the recalculating of the impervious surfaces, is that you had said SDCs? Are you talking about what is calculated? So potentially they would be paying more SDCs, because I know that goes into the SDC calculation. Yeah. No, I know, not the methodology, but like the equation that goes into the method.
Probably have our GIS go around and get all the surfaces.
Yes, so my question is, does that mean, like, if we were, what would the implications of that be? Would developers potentially be paying more?
That I don't know.
Or like, I wasn't quite sure what the end goal was for that.
The SDCs are covered by the storm master plan. The
Yes.
master plan identifies all the projects, and then the developers pay the SDCs that will
Yes.
pay that back.
I think she's asking what the impervious surface, if you're going to do a study on that, what is the end result of that?
Yes.
Is that proposed to be a user fee? Is it proposed to go into the methodology to increase what the
Yes.
developers are paying in SDCs?
That's exactly what I'm asking.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't think we go toward the SDCs.
Well, I thought that was used in calculating
Calculating.
SDCs.
It might.
Would you use it in calculating?
Yeah. I've never done an SDC.
Chris can answer that.
How to do.
I mean, I might be thinking of a different fee.
Looking at would be it'd be an increase to the utility fee. It'd be how do you calculate the average amount of impervious surface that a single family residential home has? And then you would associate a fee, a monthly fee, like Kevin said in Salem, right? In his utility bill that he gets every month for services is for stormwater, and it's based on the impervious surface on an average house or an average business or whatever it might be. So I think what you're talking about is a service fee that was collected for maintenance, as opposed to SDCs that are collected more for construction or expansion. Those would be SDCs related. So it might, well, it wouldn't really tie in. I think the impervious surface question is really more about a maintenance fee on what does it cost the city to maintain a storm system based on that impervious surface that a dwelling or a commercial or an industrial site has.
Councilor Irwin?
I have 3 questions.
All right.
Yeah, well, they've all kind of come up. And I'm already forgetting them relatively quickly. One is, rather than hoping that it's included in the rate study, is there any way we can like shoot them an email and be like, hey?
We're ahead of you. They have the information.
Yeah, like you just say like, hey, this is going to be a looming issue, and if they're, I don't know. Yeah, we got. Two, if new developments are always gonna require what was the thing called where you put the pipes in the bottom and the something swale? Should we look at including that in future SDC configurations, like you gotta build the first one or something?
The
Kind of like we do.
current requirement of code is that the developer pays for that installation and they own it and they maintain it.
Okay.
Typically, the way our code allows and what we see is typically they try to find a way to push that onto an HOA or a shared maintenance agreement between the surrounding property owners, or we've done a payment in lieu of where they pay the city a large upfront cost. I think in the past, we've looked at what's it going to take the city to maintain that like 10 years out, for example. And so they've done a one-time payment in lieu of, and then the city's taken over the maintenance of that. Where for the most part, we're going to contract that out to go there and weed whack it, whatever, but it's not paid for the 10 years down the road. We got to replace all the material or whatever it might be. But we don't have a ton of these yet, right? This is newer. The detention, and to be clear, detention's one thing, just holding it on site, those require very little maintenance. The water quality, bioswales, filtration centers, that's where you've got the median and the other stuff where those costs are going to be expensive. And that's where we're going to see this pretty significant increase in cost of maintaining a storm system is the more we're taking that over.
Well, I vote we put a little squiggly by that and begin to plan for having lots more of them.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we encourage, low impact development, which is less hardscape and more grasses, more flower beds, more items that allow the stormwater to continually soak in that like it used to. So then when we get below, I forget what the number is right offhand, you get below a certain size, you don't have that biodetention. Or you don't have to have the swale. Sometimes you have to have a detention which holds water back during a big storm, but a lot of those are just low spots in the ground. So we encourage more of that during development talks and pre-design meetings and stuff that we have developers.
And we can give credit for impervious surfaces, living roofs. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to reduce those impacts. So we try to do that at the time of development, but you know, asphalt parking lot is an asphalt parking lot.
Right.
So,
and then the third thing, real quick. So we're in a weird situation right now where Kevin is spending a lot of time on the stormwater that we're not really budgeting appropriately, right? We figured that out last month or last meeting. And I've been on a city budget committee for a long time, but I've never had to sort out, if we don't have the money to just go, okay, well now Kevin gets this money to work on storms. Where do we change first? Do we make an empty budget that doesn't do it? Like kind of a lame duck budget that's like there, but unfunded? Or do we find funding and keep having him do a bunch of stuff that isn't, you know, like my vision for the budget would be that it clearly represents the time, effort, and money time through personnel costs. And so not like hours, but the, you know, where the funds that we take in are going directly. And it, you know, I mean, it feels like a bummer that Kevin's got this heavy task that's sort of invisible. And I don't have the answer to that.
We have an answer.
Yeah. So that's the conundrum, right?
Yeah, I don't have an answer, but I mean, it's pretty clear that the entire Public Works Department, just based off this memo, does perhaps need looked at from an HR perspective, just looking at positions, you know, structure, what are other cities doing? Because Kevin's just been structured, I mean, out there in the department, he's been structured the same as all of the stormwater has been taking more of his job. And they have suggested some things, but, you know, I think from my perspective, just my HR perspective, generally you look at those things a little bit deeper before you just say, here's how much time people are allocating toward things. Because it really is, it's more than just Kevin's position. It's Gary's position, the administrative assistant, utility workers. It's a big animal, and it's not just something that you can, Kevin's making his best estimated guess, but he'd probably like to have time to look at it, look at what other cities are doing, how they're structured. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and it feels like scope creep to me, essentially, right? It's like, well, now we're doing this, now we're doing this, now, and then all of a sudden, he's doing all of this instead of like, but we
And
still
you
got
do it as it
folks that-
comes in,
yeah,
right?
right, and I love that. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
great asset, but I'd like to figure out how to accurately reflect it. Yeah.
I have two things. I guess the first, just to kind of bring us home for this committee, like, we're not gonna change utility rates or anything here. So we have to work with what we have. So I don't wanna necessarily go too far down a road that we can't change tonight. I think it's a worthy conversation for the city council, but it's not something that we have the authority to do at the budget committee. And then I guess the second question, just to clarify on this sort of table, we're not talking about any increased public works department costs, right? We're just talking about sort of which bucket we're pulling which percentages out. Okay, that seems workable, because that feels like something that the council could tweak in the rates if we had to, but, yeah. Okay. So I guess the intent of drafting this, I know you were responding to a question, but just like, given that we are working with the rates that we have right now, I guess I'm just a little confused what we're supposed to do with this information tonight, because we can't all of a sudden just pop up and change the budget for.
We could.
No, we can't. We don't have that money.
If you want to be to explain what you would do, I would agree you don't have the money.
Right.
But what you could do if you chose to is make transfers from the administration or the general fund to that fund to pay for it. That's one thing you could do. I've looked at it up one side and down the other. That can't happen in the sense of there's just not enough money there to actually do something very well. So go ahead with.
I was just gonna say that I think it's a worthy conversation. I think it seems like a solvable problem, just not a solvable tonight problem.
Chris had his hand up.
Just to respond, I think this is really informational, and it was in response to a question. We recognize that the allocations need to be adjusted. There's not revenue to adjust them this year. And some of this is a timing issue. We've been scheduled to do this utility rate study for a couple of years now. It's been delayed because of the water plant. We were really hoping to have the water plant wrapped up and know what those costs were going to be, so we could make appropriate input decisions into the black box that helps spit out those future utility recommendations. And this one's kind of been hanging on the peripheral that we were kind of aware of. We knew it was growing. We knew more Kevin's time and others was being spent there. And we're a couple of years late, I think, in really addressing this, because we have been waiting for the utility rate study, which is going to address this issue. And I think what the city council is going to be looking at, not to, my crystal ball isn't terrific, but there's a little bit there on what the inputs are. The council is going to have to grapple with increases in costs in stormwater, and maybe some of those can be offset with decreases in street or decrease in some of these others. But at the end of the day, we have a utility that is more expensive today than it was 5 years ago, and it will be substantially more expensive 5 years from now. And there's only a couple of places that pay for that money, right? The most obvious is going to be user fees, right? Or a utility fee that gets added onto your city services fee or your city services bill. or you're gonna look at some other, well, there's a lot of, that's the most obvious one, right? And that's what most other cities are doing. And you could look at offsetting it with general fund dollars, a levy of some sort, an operating levy. I mean, there's other creative things you can do, but at the end of the day, there's not enough money to support the expenses that we've got there, some of which can be offset. Like I said, some of which can't. So it's gonna, I think a lot of this we'll have in those discussions as the utility rate study comes out. We talk to the consultants that do this for a living. We get recommendations from them, and the council will get to grapple with it. But I feel like for this year, this is pretty informational. I appreciate Van's look at that kind of recognition. I mean, it'd be nice to say, oh, just, lower the street $10 and increase the storm $10, and we're covered. Well, we're past that, right? We've set utility rates for the year. This is the budget, the funds we're working with. We know the allocations aren't 100% where they need to be. And the city council's gonna have to grapple that with staff over this next year. So next year's budget, we'll get those allocations better in line. You'll probably have seen some utility rate increases that are gonna come across to help pay for storm. And hopefully some of those can be offset with some decreases in other areas, but it's more expensive to treat storm because we've got new and more regulations to treat it. Which is good for the rivers and it's good for the fish and it's good for people that live downstream, right? So it's not a bad thing, it's just a more expensive thing.
David has his hand up quite a bit, Chris wanted to, but.
I think we will pass, let's move on.
Well, I've got some things. I'm gonna be okay with moving ahead with this, but for the last 2 years, I've been working with Chris and Mike to try and address this issue. Funds not paying for their own self. There's 2 categories besides the staffing, the operation and maintenance and upgrade of the Public Works campus is paid for solely by the water and sewer department or departments. We have 5 departments under Public Works. 3 of them pay nothing for all the services from postage to the electricity to everything. Those need to be included and figured out. And this rate study isn't going to do any of that probably. I'll be interested to see. We might be able to start over with it. But anyway, that's one of the issues that needs to be involved with it. Now, the other one is the building and equipment fund. Pretty much, there are a few instances, pretty much all the equipment is paid for by the water and sewer department. The other 4 departments or 3, whatever it is, they don't pay anything. Those all need to be contributed to the equipment that they use. Now, I've got total pushback, frankly, from Mike and Chris about both of these. So if the council decides not to do either one of them, when you come out with the new rates, I expect that you make a statement saying that the water and sewer department pays for all of the maintenance or the public works facilities, the campus, they're not the facilities of the water treatment plant. And they put all the money in for the equipment. Now, I believe both of those doing what they're doing now is absolutely wrong. But if the council decides to do it, I want a statement saying that that's why they're doing that.
I pay the bills on Public Works compound. And we have a budget line for landscape maintenance. We have one for grounds maintenance in streets.
We do, yeah. Well, there are a few. There are a few.
Two are paying everything. That's
I didn't say everything. I said most everything.
No, you said
okay.
They pay the whole Public Works compound.
Well, I think just.
But it's split evenly.
By 3 of them.
When the treatment plant or the reservoir, the landscaping up there, I pull that out separately and water them through it. And Public Works is divided in 3 ways.
Well, okay. So the other 3. Okay.
Some example.
I guess, I mean, for a broad, like it's the only one that's not paying it is storm drain.
No.
Yeah, out of the,
Buildings and grounds.
that's not its own like enterprise fund, though. That's
They
a
are part of public
general
works.
fund.
If you want to operate the Parks Department out of the City Hall, then you wouldn't do that. But everything to do with parks or the employees and what they do as management of it is public works.
Okay, I just think some of the characterizations are not entirely accurate. And,
They're very accurate.
well, we can agree to disagree, Van, but we should move on.
No, one more thing.
I think we need to move on. I'm sorry, Van. We can talk after the meeting. That's
No,
fine.
I
This
got
is-
one more.
Van, let me be clear. You're talking about stuff that is within the realm of the city council and policy, which is not what we do here tonight. This is for the budget only, and this discussion has moved out of that realm. We need to wait on it and have it in a city council meeting.
Excuse me, this is the budget, what I'm talking about.
I understand that, but why have you said the council needs to issue a report and the council needs to make a statement when the council
Because
takes?
you wanted to move on. I said, I will
And you
let it
made your
go
point. Yes,
and move on.
I
if
hear
you
that.
do that.
and that has been noted. We all heard that.
I'm going to turn it over to.
Skip
Good?
turn now.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think so.
Will be on June 4th at 6 p.m. this time. You'll respond to any questions if there anything comes in and send us an email. Then you'll be approving the budget documents for the city and the URA. You'll approve it and the council will adopt it on June 9th, I believe. And then you'll also do an approval of the ad valorem property tax rate for the city. And then we'll do the increment capital for your financing for the URA. So that's all we got coming up on the next meeting. If you have any further questions, send those to Chris or myself and bring those to the next meeting. So, any questions? So I turn this back over to you, Kyle.
All right. Are we at the discussions and deliberations, or is that what we did? Okay. Are there any public comments here in the room or online?
Did anybody sign up ahead of time, Crystal? No.
All right.
Clarification.
Yeah. Yes.
Was it 6 p.m. or 5:30? I've got 5:30 in my thing.
Six.
Changed? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I do that so I can kind of confuse you, Diane.
Perfect.
It's on our
First on me.
Can I get it down 5:30 somewhere? Okay. I've done that before. So.
All right. Are we ready to adjourn?
Yeah.
You need to adjourn.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Bye. See you next time.
Yeah, she's boss. I